Remember the last time we talked about the two major decisions you will have to take in finance as either a corporate entity or as even at the individual front, where to invest and how to raise the funds. So our major concentration is where to invest, or what are the things you have to think basically before you make an investment. Now we are talking about investment in fixed assets as far as the corporate is concerned, and you may talk about at individual level any long-term investment you are basically thinking. So think about that cost of project we talked about in the last session. The cost of project, bulk of the investment, actually there were two kind of assets basically we were making investment: fixed assets and the working capital requirement. Now bulk of the investments will go in fixed assets. So if you are a manufacturing firm, your major investment in a land, factory building, machinery, other assets, so that you can start the business. So if there is 100 crore rupees you are investing, chances are 70 to 80% you are investing only and only in a fixed assets. Now, so if you have to explain what we are doing, we are spending cash at that moment, at this moment, in anticipation of future benefit. So it is essentially outlay of cash in anticipation of future benefits. This is what we are doing. And investment in fixed assets is called a capital budgeting. That is the technical name we got. But basically the how you are making investment in long-term assets. I hope my whiteboard is visible to everyone and I'm audible. Okay, so let's say, what are we looking at? We are looking at large anticipated benefits, because what you are going to do with the investment in fixed assets, you are going to generate the sale, you are going to generate the profit. So the sale should be huge depending on the kind of investment you have done. The profit should be large. That we are talking about. We are talking about a long time period. And what we are talking about relatively higher degree of risk, because we don't know the future. That's it. So if you are purchasing land is going to be there for years. If you are constructing a building, the building is going to be there for years. If you are installing the machinery comes with a lifetime, of course, but your machinery perhaps is going to last for the next 5-10 years. So the more you talk about in later on in future, the more uncertainty the future brings in. So you cannot even tell what is going to happen tomorrow. We are talking about next 5-year, 10-year time. This is what we are talking about. Now, what the other is basically issue it creates, it is going to affect your, it's going to affect your capital structure. Now, what do you mean by the capital structure? We are talking about own capital plus the debt. The more investment you need in business, the chances are you will end up with debt, whether you like it or not. So if you are starting a software firm, the amount of the capital is needed is very, very less. Perhaps you can start with your own money, your friend's money, and some of the shareholders' money in case you want to raise. But say in case you want to set up a petrochemical company or a telecom company or a refinery or maybe a fertilizer company, the kind of investment is needed is quite huge. Now, from where you are going to raise the funds, and of course you will end up with, chances are you will end up with a debt. So it is going to affect your capital structure, whether you like that or don't like that. Another problem actually is the decision you are going to take is not reversible easily. Say you decide on a particular kind of technology. Now, after setting up the whole thing, you come to realization perhaps the technology is not the proper, and you should change the technology. Can you do that? Can you sell the machinery you just install and purchase another kind of machinery? Not going to happen, because there is no second-hand market exists for these kind of machineries. No? So if you purchase, say, in 100 rupees something, you perhaps will be getting only 20-25 rupees max to max out of this. So you are going to lose a huge amount. And what you are going to lose, You are going to lose the scarcest resource a firm can have. Can anyone tell to the batch here what is the scarcest resource a firm can have? The rarest resource any firm got. Your resources are on the asset side of the balance sheet. So, can anyone tell out of these assets what you see normally, what is the rarest resource you got? The rarest cash, once it is gone, it will be very, very difficult to get it back. You know what is that? A cash. The cash is gone because to purchase a new machinery, what you need again, you need cash from where you are going to bring in if you have lose 70-80% of the original value. Okay, the one of the two major problem actually you are going to have in these kind of a decision, because we are talking about years to come. We are starting the business in anticipation that the business or the product relevance will be there in future. The chances are it may not, because the people preferences are changing, technology is changing. The business model, the life of the business model are getting shorter and shorter. So every year you have a new iPhone model because the old life iPhone cycle is over. You had the radio, you had the transistor. Now what you got, everything is in your mobile phone. You see, the whole thing is changing very fast. So you had the cassettes, you had the CDs, then it comes to DVD. Now what you got MP3s. Now even perhaps you don't use MP3s because you got what music streaming services. The models are changing so fast. And then can you guess means the future. That is the whole point here. So will you be able to predict the future so that you can decide what kind of a business you want to be in, what kind of a investment you want to do, so that your investment keeps relevant even in the near future or in a longer term and keeps on giving you the return because you have made a huge investment. And Indian corporate history actually is filled with the example where the companies took a one wrong decision and they were simply out of the business. So take one particular example, and then it will tell you what we are basically trying to convey. So in 1995, the government of India, the first time in India, introduced a mobile telephony services. Prior to that, there was only landline and there were pagers. Hardly some people were using. I hope you have heard, or perhaps some of you have seen the pagers. Now, so when the government of India came out with mobile telephony services, what the government of India did, it basically invited biddings. Said you have to won the circle. So the telecom, the whole country was divided in circle, and in every circle there were two operators which could operate, other than MTNL and BSNL. Now, because these were the government companies, these were in any case were allowed to offer the mobile telephony services. So otherwise, you got circle. So Uttar Pradesh got two circle, UP East and the UP West. Now in each circle, there were maximum two players could be who could give the maximum bidding. So on a 20-year contract, so the part you have to submit to the government, the part is the revenue sharing. So this is what you have to promise actually at the time of the bidding. So the largest two bidder in each circle would get the circle to operate. Now think about that time in 1995. Now how would you bid for a mobile telephony circle? You got only the landlines, and you got the STD facilities which were introduced some time back through PCOs. The people try to wait at 9 o'clock because the rate could get half. At 11 o'clock, the rate could come get 1/4, so that these people or the people could talk to their dear ones at that particular time. There were pagers, not many people were using, and you introduced mobile telephony services. So the academic paper that time basically show that the mobile telephony service is going to be an utter failure because the Indians are too cost conscious. And anyone got the idea what was the rate of the call rate that time? Anyone got any guess what were the rates, or have you seen the rates at that particular time in 1995 or 96 when this mobile came first time?
20 rupees, sir, for incoming also and outgoing also.
Not 20 rupees. I never heard 20 rupees, but I heard. I mean, you may be right in some of the circles I'm not aware of. Perhaps in Maharashtra or so, but 8 rupee 40 paisa normally when you make a call, and 4 rupee 20 paisa when you're receiving the call. So even when you're receiving the call, you have to pay a huge amount. Now in that particular circumstances, remember the context. The companies bidding. Can you guess the total amount these people promised to Government of India in 1995? Winners and the loser both. Can you make any guess of the amount? What could be the amount these people say that they can give it to the government, provided the government gives them the circle? I'm saying total amount actually. I'm not saying the winners only. So I'll tell you the amount the winners actually offered to the Government of India that time in 1995. But make your guess. Any guess you think? How much in those, and keep in mind the environment of 1995, not of 2021. Companies were coming in a sector which was starting first time, and you could perhaps had no idea how the sector will come out to be. So, any guesses? Or what you could bid at that time?
No, sir.
No idea. You know what was the total amount which all the companies combined basically promised to the Government of India that they could give it to? 79,000 crores of the circle, which had no past track record whatsoever in it. And the companies who won the circles, they promised more than 20,000 crores to Government of India. Now after that, the telecom circle actually was a mess. A lot of policy changes, and there were a lot of churning in the sector, new entrant, and there are a lot of issues now. Such an extent now you are basically left with only 3 private players now. So, and any idea about who was the largest bidder?
Reliance?
No. No Reliance, no Tata, no Birla. There was no Hutch that time. There was no Orange that time. There was no Vodafone that time. The largest bidder is still listed on stock exchange, still live and kicking. A company which manufactures telecom equipment. HFCL, Himachal Futuristic Corporation Limited, in case you have heard the name. Perhaps they never operated any of the circle and surrendered that, but the people make their own assumption of how the future will be. And there are 2 sets of people actually. The first set of people, those who know that they don't know the future, and the other one, they don't know that they don't know the future. And we are starting businesses, we are taking risks, we are doing all these exercises. Everybody does that. We try to be risk averse as far as possible and still take risk so that we can succeed in future. So in the mid-80s, there were 2 large textile companies, and both decided to go for a backward integration. That means to produce the raw material what they were producing, what they were doing, polyester filament yarn. So they both decided that they are going to produce a petrochemical compound, which is basically going to produce the PFY of polyester filament yarn. So the one company opted for PTA, other company opted for a DMT. And guess what? The DMT never worked. And some years back, the company which basically opted for a DMT sold its plant. Not the plant actually, they sold the steel which was there in the plant as scrap. And the other company, you know, the other company as Reliance, which went for the PTA. So there may be a lot of examples you may find where the companies made wrong assumptions regarding the future, wrong assumption regarding the location, wrong assumption or the decision regarding the kind of the project it is going to have, wrong assumptions regarding the political and the legal environment regarding the products, But we still have to take a call regarding how the future will pan out to be, and should we invest or not. And the other problem we are going to have in these kind of a decision, again, the benefits will come in future. The cost you are going to incur right now, the cost you are going to incur right now. So that means the benefits and the cost both are not comparable. Just like you saw in the previous session. Because the real worth of the future cash flows you are going to okay, someone has shared the attendance sheet. See, even if you have filled this, there is no issue. For this session also, I'm going to share it again. So even if you fill that, that is okay. So even if you have filled the earlier one and not able to fill, which I'm going to share, that is still okay. So we are just for our purpose, we are taking it thrice, but your attendance in any case is marked. So don't worry about that. If you are here in the session, we are able to track you. The only thing is hopefully you are joining the Zoom meeting with your at least the proper name, if not from the proper mail ID. So in any case, I will share it again after some time. So don't worry. In case you have already filled this, don't worry about that. Okay, so what we were talking about, the difference, the money, the time frame. Now, as you have already gone through the time value of money, you know the present worth of the future benefit is much less. So if someone say, I'm going to spend, I'll give me 10,000 right now, and I'll give you 10,000 back after 5 years, you will simply say no. Now, why no? Because you know the 10,000 rupees you are going to receive at the end of the 5 year worth much less than the 10,000 what you are going to give right now. And how to get the present value? Now you have a basic idea. We will be doing it again. But again, we are spending the money right now in anticipation that the future will be right. So the first, there is no guarantee that the future will be right. Then the second, the benefit you are going to receive, whatever the notional value you see, the present worth of that money is much less. So you have to basically compare that, what is the present worth of that money and whether that is more than the cost I'm going to incur right now or not. So this, we have to start the decision-making process. So that whenever you make any investment, keep these things in mind. Okay, so what are the different kind of investment decision you are going to take, at least in the corporate funds? There are three kind of a decision you are going to take. The first, what we call accept, reject decision. That means there is only one investment avenue. So you either have to select or reject. So you decide as per your criteria, should you select this or not. So only one proposal at a time. So either you take it or leave it. The most of the time, this, what is going to happen, what I am writing right now. So you got mutually exclusive projects, or rather decisions. So you got multiple projects. You have to choose only one. On what basis you will do? So if there are multiple projects you got, in which the company can make the investment, but you have to choose only one because you have to decide only one kind of a technology or one kind of a machinery. But there are multiple options available. How you are going to do? So you say, what are my different criteria? There may not be one criteria, there may be multiple criteria. Then you make a ranking. And then ultimately decide, okay, which one you are going to use. Then we got a third kind of a decision which companies also face and the individual, of course, face. This is what we call a capital rationing. Capital rationing, sometimes you have to purchase a lot of things. So if a person is, say, in the new job, trying to settle in a new location, and then what the person has to purchase. So if the same person, I'm going to raise my family here. So what the person has to purchase other than the house, say the house is there either on a rent or already purchased. So you have to purchase a lot of household items to make a comfortable living. The problem is the money in your pocket is limited. You cannot purchase every item. So you have to again create a preference that what should I purchase, what should I not? What is the most important to me, what is not? In case of a company, the company will say, okay, I got this much of money. This is the places where I can invest, where I'm going to invest. So I'm going to invest the places which give us the maximum return out of the total money invested. So that kind of a decision we have to take. Okay, again, look at the definition before I actually switch over the sheet. We are spending cash in anticipation of a future benefit. Can you tell me, what do we mean by benefit now? What do we mean by benefit? Okay, say no. What you are looking out from the project? Why you are investing? What is the purpose? You are making investment somewhere in anticipation of what? You are sacrificing your present consumption. You are giving away the money, making investment, not choosing the money for your purpose right now. Now, benefit, if you are saying profit, that you are looking for a profit, you are looking for a return, then we are not looking at the accounting profit. We are not looking at the accounting profit. Why? Because the accounting profit comes after certain accounting conventions. So you may agree with those accounting conventions or not. You may agree with those accounting principles or not. The fact of the matter is, when you are making investment, what you are investing? You are investing cash, na? So what you will need back? We need back cash only. We are not concerned with how much accounting profit you tell us. My only purpose is, if I'm making investment in cash, I need my cash back. More cash than what I invest. So what we need to do, we need to convert this accounting profit in a cash profit. So how we are going to do that? Look at this. I'm going to create two conditions. I'll tell you the reason also. Say what you're going to do, you're saying, okay, this is how we are going to start. Okay, what is my sale? What is my cost of sale? What is my selling and admin expenses and other expenses? What is my depreciation? I'm writing depreciation separately, deliberately actually. Now, if I deduct all these, what I got profit before tax. This is what I got, na? So what I have to do now? I have to pay the tax. So what I got? A profit after tax. So this is what the accounting profit is. Okay. Now, this is not a cash profit. Why? Because in order to calculate this profit after tax, you must have included certain non-cash items. And one major item, non-cash, which every company got, is the depreciation. When you say I'm charging depreciation because it is my expense, because it is my loss, are you paying cash to someone? No, you are not. The money is still lying there in your pocket. You're saying I'm having a loss, you're saying I'm having an expense, but the money is nowhere gone. Money is still there in your pocket. So what you need to do, add back the depreciation. So this is what we are going to do. So what we got, cash, but still again, we are talking about a particular investment. So think about last time, yesterday when we were discussing what is the total cost of the project. So we talked about there are two costs. You got fixed assets, you got working capital. The working capital primarily depends on sales. You got more sale, you require more working capital because the inventory goes up, receivable goes up, cash requirement goes up. Your sales comes down, your working capital requirement comes down. So if your sale is growing up, that means in case your working capital requirement is growing up, that means you need to bring more and more funds now. because you need to make more investment in inventory, you need to make more investment receivables, you need to make more investment in cash. So that means you need more cash actually to make investment in all these assets. So in case you are making your working capital is changed next year because the sale will increase next year, that you have to make adjustments. I'm writing plus or minus because if the sale is growing, you have to deduct because the cash should be now less. So operating free cash flow, this what we call. This what we need. How much cash is left out of this new investment we are making? So we got a profit on this new investment. We added back the depreciation. That is the total cash we got. But in case our income will grow next year in this investment only, because of this investment only, that means the part of the money will be required for more working capital. So that means that cash is now not free or further blocked. So how much cash is left? This cash is left. So this, what we are going to compare with the cost. Any question before I proceed? Any question you have? Any doubt you have? Please tell me in case you got any problem actually, or any issue, or any explanation you need. Okay, now this, what we require, operating free cash flow. Now I said I'm going to create two things. Now remember, in this whole thing, we have not included one expense item, interest. We are assuming that even if you have debt, even if you are paying interest, we are not considering for the time being. We are not considering for the time being. I'll tell you why. When we come to one particular technique, I'll tell you why we are not considering that we. Now, I indirectly, this is what is going to happen. This cash flow will be used for both of the stakeholders, lender as well as your equity shareholder. So that means that all these two people going to get their share out of this cash, because they are going to get out of this cash. Interest is not included here. Okay, so keep that thing in mind. Now, I really don't know how many of you actually have still exposure to finance or normally see the financial terms on a daily basis. But just for the information sake, though this part is good enough. So if you understood that we have to deduct all the expenses other than interest. So we got a profit before tax, we charge the tax, we got a profit after tax, we add back the depreciation because the depreciation is a non-cash item. And we also adjust the working capital changes, and that is the cash flow we are going to use. Now, in case you have exposure to certain financial terms and you keep on looking the financials, if you have debt, you are paying interest, but we assume that there is no interest. So we have all these items like this, but this item we normally call EBIT, earning before interest and taxes. You pay the taxes, and this is what we call operating profit after tax. This is just the change of the terminology for the accounting purpose. So if you are otherwise not dealing in financial terms, you just want to understand the whole thing, the left hand side is good enough. But if you got exposure and you look at the financials now and then keep one thing in mind, there is a technical term for this. We call it operating profit after tax, rather profit after tax. Okay, this is okay so far? Okay, then we say how we are going to evaluate. Now, how you are going to evaluate such important projects on which the future of the company is dependent. So the first technique, which is very, very simple, which even you use without knowing it that you are using it, is called a payback period, or PBP sometime what we call. Now payback period is very simple. Say take a case, there is a cost of 60,000 rupees. This is what you have to make investment, and the cash flows per annum is 20,000 rupees. Cash flow is 20,000 rupees per annum for next 5 years. Now, if anyone can tell me in what time you are getting your amount back, you are
In 3
getting
years.
your amount back.
3 years.
3 years is very simple, because what the PBP is basically that this is the cost of investment, and this what you got annual cash flows. So you say 60,000 is my cost, 20,000 I'm getting every year. So in 3 years, basically I'm getting my investment back. Now tell me, in case there is another project which has got the same cost, which has got the same life, but gives you money back in 2.5 years. Which project you are going to select? 3 years or 2.5 years?
2.5, sir.
2.5 years. Why? Because it's very, very clear, the more early you get the recovery of the principal, you are safe. You don't know what is going to happen in 3 years. You don't know what is going to happen in the 4th year or 5th year. So you want the recovery of the capital is very, very fast. So that's why that is a logic in case you are using PBP, or the payback period, to evaluate a project. Now, consider another project. Now here in this case, say these are the cash flows. So we take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and say these are the cash flows you are receiving. Different cash flows actually. So 7,000, 9,000, I think 12,000, 9,000 again, and then say 2,000. The cost is 30,000. What is the payback period? What is the payback period? Cost is 30,000. This is how you are getting the cash flows. Anyone? If you cannot tell exact, tell me approximately. This is. We got 2 years. Okay, so let's say
So it is 1.8, 1 year, 8 months kind of, sir.
1 year. No. Remember up to this. How much you have recovered?
Okay, got it. Sorry. Yeah.
You have recovered 27,000 so far. So that means
Yes.
even up to 6 years you are not able to recover. No? So 6 years.
Yes, sir. Yes.
How much you have to recover now? Remaining amount. You have to recover 3,000 rupees only, because the 27,000 is recovered up to 6 years. And how much you are getting in the 7th year? 9,000. So assuming 9,000 you are going to get evenly throughout the year. We are going to get our money back in 6.3 years, or 6 years, 4 months. Okay, very well. Now take another example. Say our cost remain, say simple 30,000 rupees. There are 2 projects, A and B, and both give you cash like this. Which project you are going to select? A or B? Hmm? Anyone? Make your assumption.
A,
So you
sir.
mentioned the cost, sir? You mentioned the
Cost is
cost?
30,000. Cost is 30,000.
I
Reason
think
being.
A would be better, sir.
Hmm?
A.
A is better. Anyone having a different opinion?
Same
Sir, I
actually.
think B is,
B is better. B better because it provides more money early. Very good. But remember that your payback period is same for both of these projects.
Yes, payback period is
Technically, method itself will say choose anyone, indifferent, because both basically are 3 years.
Same.
The only problem is, and that is the problem with the payback. Payback is very, very simple technique, very easy to understand. There is no problem as such. The only problem is it doesn't include the whole project. Take our first example. We said that my capital is recovered in 3 years. But remember, the first project is giving the total cash flow of 1 lakh. We are not considering what we are getting after 60,000. Similarly, in our second example, we are not considering what we are getting after 30,000 recovery. So the project actually is still giving you the cash flow for the next some years. Similarly, what is going to happen with these in 4th year? Remember, the B is already dying. A still got a life. At least it seems so. So in a 4th year, the A will give you something, the B is not going to give you. Now, people who say B say recovery of the principal is fast. That's okay. But ask any entrepreneur. The entrepreneur will say, I'm going to select A. Why? Because the A price is going to end up with a profit. Now you are investing in a project, not because you want to recover your principal, but also you want to have a profit. Well, that is the main purpose. If I have to recover my principal only, then why should I invest? I won't. But though you are correct that the B is giving the faster recovery because at least half of the money comes back in the first year itself. But we don't know actually what is going to happen with this project in the 4th year, whether any cash is left actually or not. So we are not aware of this. Another problem with this technique. For this technique, this 4,000 and this 4,000 are equal. You included everyone to get that I'm able to recover the amount in perhaps somewhere in 7th year. But do you know that, means, do you believe that these 4,000 and the 5th year 4,000 both are same in value terms?
No, sir, they are not same.
They are not same. Because of 4,000 you are going to receive in a 5th year is actually worth much less than the 4,000 you are going to receive in the first year. Your payback period is not going to consider this. So that's why some people use a discounted payback period. If the time permits, we can discuss that what is a discounted payback period. But in case we are considering like this, you are not including what you just learned in the previous session, time value of money. Okay, so that is not done. So there are two big issues. The first, we are not considering the whole project. That is one. The second, we are not considering the time value of money. But otherwise, it's very, very simple technique. Everyone uses that consciously or unconsciously. So I hope in case it is okay, then we come to the next technique. The technique which is going to use the full project and the technique which is going to use the time value of money. Now consider this technique is called net present value or NPV. So the net present value basically tells you, okay, let me tell you how the net present value works. Net present value or NPV is equal to how much cash flows you are going to receive that you discount back with the rate, whatever the rate of return you are looking for, the cash flow in a second year, cash flow in the nth year minus cost. That is, I think I should write here only. So that is the meaning of NPV. That you get the present value of future cash flows, take a total of those cash flows, deduct the cost which you are going to incur right now, and then
So what we have minused? Minus sign.
zero cash flow at T0 right now.
Okay.
So 0 is this year, 1 is the year number 1, then year number 2. Okay, so cash flow in this year, that is the cost basically. No? So your NPV is basically what we call gross present value. So when you get the present value of future benefit, this is what we call a gross present value in a technical sense, minus cost. NPV must be positive. That means the present value of the future benefit should be more than the cost we are going to incur. So this is actually what should happen. And we just take one simple example. We say here is a project and here are the cash flows. This is a project, suppose this is project A. So this has got a 5-year life and the project say 15,000, 20,000, 30,000, 20,000, 15,000 and 5,000. So the total cash flows, I think what you are getting is 85,000. The cost of the project is 50,000. Now, how to know how the project is profitable? So what you need to find out first, before we start trying to find out whether we should invest in such kind of a project or not. So the first you have to see what is your expectation of this. What is the return you are expecting? So even as a company, remember the last class you had with me, what is the expectation of your stakeholder? So if you say my required rate of return is 10%, that I'm going to invest in this project only and only if this project gives me a more than 10% return, otherwise not. So 10% means basically the 10% is your required rate of return, or 10% is your cost of capital. Sometimes you also call it what is the cost of funds, or sometimes you call it hurdle rate. Let's explain this one by one. Now 10% is required rate of return. I mean, as an individual, you may say this is my required rate of return. As a company, when the company says this is my required rate of return, that means the company is saying this is my cost of capital. Remember the last time in the last session, yesterday we calculated the cost of capital, equity and debt, and then we combine. Or that is your cost of funds. So whatever the funds the company got, the real worth or the real cost of those funds actually is 10%. Or sometimes company says this is the hurdle rate. This hurdle any project must pass. So any project I'm going to choose, that project should give me a return which is more than 10%. Or say, you are taking this. You say as an individual you want to invest it. So you may say this is my required rate of return, or you may also say that this is my what we call opportunity cost. That means if I don't put this money in this project, I can still get a 10% return somewhere. So because I'm losing an investment somewhere else and I'm investing in this particular project, so I must get a return more than this. So if this project gives me a return of a 10% or more, I'm going to invest. Otherwise, simply I'm not going to invest. Now, the whole issue is, if I give this particular issue to you as a badge and ask you to have your own rate, everybody will be having his or her own rate. So that is the issue with NPV. But otherwise, the NPV is very simple. I am selecting the proposal, and my required rate of return or my opportunity cost or the cost of fund is 10%. So what I want, any project in which I'm going to invest must generate a return more than this. So how we are going to do this? So what you are basically looking as such, that NPV of this project will be equal to 15,000 1.10 plus 20,000 1.1 raised to the power 2. I hope you are now following this because you already have a time value of money session, plus 15,000 1.10 raised to the power 4 plus 5,000. Okay, let me have plus 5,000 1.10 raised to the power 5 minus 50,000. This is my NPV is. Okay, so in case I ask you people to solve this, how long you will take? 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes?
3 minutes, sir.
How
3
much?
minutes. 3 minutes.
3 minutes you will take. Okay, what about, you need not to do anything. Do one thing. Check the folder which is shared with you. Check the day 4 folder. There is a one Excel file. Download that. Otherwise, let me see if I can attach a file from my desktop. The same file. So either you may download it from the chat, or you may download from the folder. Got that? Everybody?
Sir, have you sent it on chat?
I have sent it on chat. Just confirm this. I am able to see.
Sir, it's not in the chat, sir.
Oh, sorry.
It may be
I think
still uploading, I think.
my issue. It was a direct message actually. Let me do it again. Now?
Yes, sir. Now got it.
Good. So let me open this, and now let me share the screen with you. So you got the same file, I got the same file. So you work along with me. Are you able to see this?
Yes, sir.
Very
Yes.
well. So I'm just closing this, just close this enable content, whatever it is coming. So you need not to worry. Also do one thing, write this 10%, 10%. I'm inserting a row So just for the information's sake, I'm saying, okay, this is the total cash flows we are going to receive. There is no need for you to do this. What we are saying basically, there are two projects you have to compare. Okay, there are two projects you have to compare. Project A and project B. So we already have project A, which you just saw on the whiteboard. And now there is another project. So look at first both of the projects. Prima facie, the project B looks more profitable because the total cash flows it is going to generate is 90,000. The total cash flows project A is going to generate is 85,000. Okay, let's calculate the NPV in Excel. On paper, how you have to do, now you know. What we do with our students, we also give them some sort of tables. So they simply multiply the numbers of the table with the values which are given and simply take a total. But remember, they get the table first time in their life in this class, and they are never going to use this table when they leave the course. Because the most of us actually are working on Excel itself. So this is where you are going to do. And otherwise, you know the equation. This is how you can do that on your own. So do one thing. We are going to use the calculate the NPV with the help of the Excel. Press this and press NPV. Type NPV. That is the formula in the Excel. I hope you are following. Now,
Yes, sir.
what the formula is saying? The formula is saying give us the rate. So give us the rate. Give the rate 10%. Press comma and select all these positive cash flows. The cash flows which are occurring in future. Not the cost. Not the cost. Cash flows you are occurring in future. Close this. Press enter. See what happens. Are you getting the same number somewhere near to that?
Yes, sir, we are getting.
Very good. The only problem is this is not NPV. Because you just saw the equation. What is the equation we gave you? The equation is the present value of the future benefit minus the cost. We never deducted the cost actually. Then what the Excel is doing? Excel is calling it NPV. This is not an NPV. This is called gross present value. Only the present value of the future benefit. Now this is the problem with the Excel right from the version number 1. So they formulated gross present value in NPV, assuming it is called NPV, and everyone is so comfortable that no one makes an objection and Microsoft doesn't make any change. But we have to do it. We have to do so. We are going to modify the formula. So modify the formula. We have to deduct the cost. But remember, the cost is already written in minus. So instead of deducting, what I'm doing, I'm pressing a plus sign. But so ultimately, it will deduct only. So select this B3 and press enter. So the real benefit or NPV for this project is 16,055 as per the Excel. So if you solve it manually, the answer will slightly differ. Don't worry about that. So the net benefit, you see, I'm getting a return which is much more than 10%. Remember, because if this project gives us exactly 10% return, the NPV should be 0. So I'm not getting 0. I'm getting a positive number. So I'm getting a return more than 10%. I don't know what I'm getting, but I'm getting a return more than 10%. So if your cost of money or the cost of fund is 10% and you put such kind of a project, simply accept that because this project is giving a more than 10% return. Now, what I do, I copy this and paste here. Now, this is the NPV for the second project. This is the NPV for the second project. Now, but are you getting surprised or not? Do you surprise? Or you think it is okay? Remember, when the total cash flow the project is promising is 85,000 rupees.
So we are getting 40,000 when we paste it.
40.
Yeah, 40,000.
40,000. I think you just check the
Just
formula.
copied it and
No, check the original formula first.
okay.
Have you done the same thing?
Yes, yes. Here I am getting correct. This 16,055.
Have you mentioned the cost of capital here also?
Yes, because we are copying, it is getting the same.
But you are getting 40,000.
Yes, sir.
I really don't know what you are basically, or otherwise write a formula again manually.
Okay.
Means you may be including, or no, I think it should not happen though. I think that can happen only when you are including 90,000 somewhere. I don't know. But
2C4.
do it manually. Do it manually.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Anyone else getting a different number or getting the same numbers?
Same number, sir.
Same number. Very well. Very well. Very well. Okay. So now you know the NPV. Okay. Can anyone give me the idea? Why the project which promises 85,000 cash flows give us a NPV of 16,000, but a project which promises a benefit of 90,000 gives an NPV of less than that? Why this project is giving a lesser benefit? Can you observe something?
Sir, I think the first project is getting more cash flow in this middle range, 15, then 20, then 30.
Why the project profitability depends the nature of the cash flow. Project is getting, I think, slightly more than half of its lifetime. So because the life of the project is 5 years, so just take the first 3 years and see what are the cash flows you are getting. You are getting 65,000 in project A, but you are getting 40,000 only in a project.
40,000.
So if you are getting a recovery fast, the project will give you more profit. Why it happens? I will basically has to explain this example later on. But go to the sheet number 4 and just look at the graph. Forget about the question. We are not doing that. Just look at the graph. This is how your present value comes down with the change of the rate. It is not a linear relationship. There is a steep downfall in the initial year. There is a less downfall in the later years. This is what happens. So if you are getting more cash flows in the initial year, you are getting more return. If you are getting more cash flows in the later year, it is not going to matter more. So it hardly matters the amount you are going to get in the 24th year or 25th year or 10th year or 11th year, but it matters a more whether you are getting in a first year or a second year. Okay, but there is another problem now. See, we use 10%. You may ask why 10%, why not 12%, why not 15%, why not 20%? Now, if you increase your expectation, what is going to happen? If you increase your expectation, if you increase the rate, the present value of the future benefit will start coming down. The same project which is profitable right now may become a loss making after some time if you keep on increasing your expectation. The second problem is this project is basically 10%. We gave you the rate, but if we let you to have your own rate, everybody is going to use a different rate. Everybody is going to tell us they're different kind of NPV. But the fact of the matter is, you are spending 50,000 rupees, and that 50,000 rupees in the next 5 years are going to give you 85,000 rupees total. So tell me, is this project giving you some kind of a return or not? Some kind of return. 50,000 converted 85,000 in the next 5 years, na?
Yes, yes.
So you are getting some kind of a return. So what is the return the project itself is giving? If we forget about your required rate of return, we forget about 10%, but the fact is the 50,000 somehow converted at 85,000 the next 5 years. So this project is giving us a return. Now, what is that return? What is project's own rate of return? So how to get that? Now this, oh sorry, what I did, I shared it again. Okay, I'm going to share my whiteboard actually. So there is another method basically what we have. And that method is called, and this term you will hear it again and again. And if you are coming from the corporates, then in any case you are aware of this. But even in real life also you are going to hear this term again and again. This what we call internal rate of return, IRR. IRR you will hear most of the time. Now IRR, what we are basically saying, we are saying IRR that you discount back the future cash flows the answer it should be zero. The IRR is a condition where the gross present value is equal to the cost or where the NPV actually is nil. So what is the rate the project is giving us a return? What is the rate? At what rate, if we discount back the future cash flows, the total of those present values will be exactly 50,000 as per our example is concerned. So if I leave you with, say, try to find out the IRR of our example. Try to find out the IRR of our examples. How long you will take to find out the IRR? Remember the problem in this particular case is you know the condition, you don't know the rate, but you know the condition. That what we are looking at in this particular example, we are looking at a condition, we say 15,000, 1 plus R, there is no 10% now, plus 20,000, 1 plus R raised to the power 2, plus 30,000, 1 plus R raised to the power 3, plus 15,000, 1 plus R raised to the power 4, plus 5,000, 1 plus R raised to the power 5, minus 50,000 is equal to 0. That is the condition we are looking at. So tell me how long you will take. 10% it is profitable. That means the real return this project is offering is more than 10%. Now, there is only one way to do this, that you go for a trial and error. Okay, so you go for the trial and error, and the trial and error will take time. So what you got in reality? To our students, actually, we try to give them a shortcut so that they can finish the exam within the stipulated time. But who is going to use the shortcut in reality once you got Excel at your disposal? So we come back to our Excel. Theoretically, you know how to solve that. There is only one way, trial and error. That is the right way to do that. So Excel come back to the Excel now again and type a formula which is simply called IRR. Excel has got a formula IRR. Open the bracket and select all these cash flows right from the cost to the 5th year cash flow. And remember that this cost should be negative. That is the reason basically I actually written the cost in negative. Close the bracket. That's it. And see what happens. So if you copy paste, this is what is going to happen. Are you getting the same number? Yeah, please keep on telling me.
Yes,
Yes.
sir, we are getting.
Very good.
Yes.
I know it is lunch time for some of you, but we are getting a break at 11:45 only, so don't worry about that. Okay, so you're getting the same number. Now look at this. You started with 10%, but see what is this project is offering you? 23% compounded return per annum. Per annum. Okay, and this project is giving you 19% return per annum, compounded return per annum.
Sir,
This
in
is
the
what we call-
syntax, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
In the syntax of IRR, they are
Hmm.
asking for some guess value. Is it
Forget about the
mandatory?
guess value. No need to write anything.
Okay.
No need to write anything. Simply do that. Okay. So you keep on asking in case you have any doubt, please. Because if you are not asking, I'll take the assumption perhaps that you are getting whatever I'm trying to convey. Okay.
Sir, this is Vinodini, sir.
Sure.
Sir, this is Vinodini, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, a small doubt, sir. Sir, this Excel part is very much clear, sir. You said that there is a shortcut if, for doing it with the formulas, right, sir?
A shortcut will not give you the exact what you say the IRR. It will give you the band in which your IRR should fall. But again,
The reason I asked is,
yeah.
the reason I asked is, sir, for some exams and all, they're asking, they don't give the option for the calculators or the Excel. So that's the
I
reason
think
I
the
asked, sir.
calculator should be allowed, at least if not scientific calculator, I think you can allow the normal calculator. You can also allow them present value tables. I hope the time value of money tables you are providing them. Okay, so means that at least that should be there, no? Are you providing time value of money tables or not?
Sir, in some in net exams and all, they don't give us the calculators or neither the Excel, sir.
Okay, net exam. Okay, net exam.
Yes, yes.
See, to get this shortcut work, you need that table actually.
Okay, sir.
Okay, so if you just otherwise, if you are just asking for the purpose of the class, that how to explain this to the class, that how the shortcut can be used. So if you can connect me later on, I'll basically tell you steps in the mail how to do that. But again, you may need manual interventions for such kind of projects, the kind of projects we are doing. But it will give you the idea. Means you otherwise from 10% to 23%, you will take a lot of time to jump. Okay, so let's see. The IRR is 23% per annum. Here the IRR is 19% per annum. This is very decent IRR. Now, so there are two things we got: NPV, we got IRR. Now, what do you think? Which one is good, NPV or IRR?
Sir, IRR, sir.
IRR is better. Okay, why IRR is better?
Sir, at least we know at what rate the net cash flows and outflows are equal, no, sir. So I think that would be better for.
Okay,
And
very
sir,
well. So IRR is a theoretically most beautiful concept you got. It tells you the unbiased return. 23% is the return the project is offering. If you like that return, accept the proposal. If you don't like, don't accept the proposal. 19% the B is giving, it is still more than what you are looking for. Accept the proposal. The only problem now is that in reality, perhaps the IRR may not be feasible at this rate. This rate means whatever the rate you are able to compute. Now, if you are coming from the corporates use the term only IRR. They don't use the word term NPV normally, but they will tell you that is the minimum IRR they are looking for. When you are saying that is the minimum level of return you are looking for, you are basically saying NPV. You are not saying IRR, because the IRR is project's own rate of return. So you have to compare your expectation with project's return. So if your expectation is lower side, project is giving on a higher side, of course you will select. And if your expectation is more what the project is offering you, of course you are going to reject that. Well, but let's see where the problem will be actually. The problem will be, let's say first this. Most of the time, the project, the NPV say you should select the same project, IRR will say you should select. So we got two projects, NPV saying A is better, IRR is saying A is better. There is no problem as such. But what about these conditions? Now, if I select the IRR, so I'm just trying to select the IRR, you may try to follow me. So even if you are not able to follow, I will upload the sold Excel file. So let's say if I try to use the IRR, what I need to do, I need to just select these two. I say 60%. What is the IRR? 100%. So if I say NPV, my NPV is that what is the rate? Okay, the rate is at 10%. So I say 0.1, comma, future cash flows minus the cost. Okay, which project you are going to select? A or B? A or B? Anyone? Which looks good? Project A is good or project B is good? Remember, the project B is giving 100% IRR. But what is the problem you got? A. Okay.
So project B is good, right, sir? Project B is good, I think, sir.
Now, in case there is a conflict between NPV and IRR, we normally rely on NPV. We don't rely on IRR. That is the point I want to convey with the help of this sheet. So this you may later on try to calculate on your own, but you will find IRR is indicating one project is better, NPV is indicating another project is better. But now see this case. You say 100% return in a 1 year, from where else you are going to get such kind of a return? This is going to give you only 60%. You say B is better. The problem now is, if you got a 1 lakh at your disposal to invest, and you invest only 10,000 rupees in B to get a 100% return for the next year, then where are you going to invest the remaining 90,000 rupees? Where are you going to invest? Because remember that you got a 1 lakh to spend, that you are going to spend 1 lakh rupee in A. But if you spend the whole amount in A, you get 45,000, roughly 45,500 rupees as a profit in the 1 year itself. And what you are getting, only 8,000 rupees. Now why 8,000? Because you are not able to, perhaps you don't know, we actually don't know where the rest of the 90,000 going. What should be the purpose? The purpose is, if we got certain amount of the money, the every amount should get the highest return possible. And then I tell you the real problem actually when I come back to the sheet number 1 again. But in case there is a conflict between NPV and IRR, we say rely on NPV, because at the end of the day, who is going to select the proposal? You. So whose return should matter? Your return only. So the project is giving a return which is more than what you are looking for. Then select the proposal. 100% is a quite decent one. Even 60% is a decent when you compare to the 10%. No? So when your cost of capital is 10%, you are getting a 60% return on the whole amount you got at your disposal. Why don't you invest that? So even in these conditions, when you try to calculate on your own, you will find out that IRR is indicating something else. else, NPV indicates something else. And keep one thing in mind, in this particular question, the NPV is 9%. Oh, your rate is 9%. So all
Sir,
this
exactly what we should do when such kind of conflicts are there?
always NPV,
NPV.
always NPV. Because the
Okay.
NPV, in case you are getting a positive NPV, that means you are ending up with a profit. That's it. That's what you want.
Okay.
Now look at this. This is what we call IRR with abnormal cash flows. The why abnormal cash flows is what happened so far. We talked about only example where you're spending the money right now and you are getting the cash sometime later on. This is what you are doing. This is what you are getting. In this particular example, what is happening that the cash flows actually are changing in a slightly different manner. So you got minus 1,000, you got 4,000, and you got minus 3,750. This is what you are getting. The question is, what is the return you will be able to get out of this? So let's see. If we try to do the IRR, let's try to do the IRR. Say IRR. Say IRR is 0 actually. You say IRR is a 50%. Are you getting 50% return actually per annum in this particular proposal? See, are you getting such kind of a return?
Yes.
I hope you are getting the same number, na?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But just look at the numbers in the project B. What your gut feeling tells you? Are you getting 50% return? You're not getting actually. Okay, so let me share my whiteboard again and tell you what's basically happening. Now, why the problem comes because this particular project has got a abnormal cash. This is what we call abnormal cash. So what you are basically saying is that at T0 you got minus 1,000, at T1 you got 4,000, at T2 year number 2 you got minus 3,750. Now so, and because we have to calculate the IRR, we are saying 4,000 1 plus R raised to the power 1, or even if you don't write anything, doesn't matter, minus 3,750 1 plus R raised to the power 2 minus, or 1 plus R raised to the power 2 minus 1,000 is actually 0. So if you say if 1 upon 1 plus R, we take it as X, then I can rewrite the whole equation. I can rewrite the whole equation like 3,750X raised to the power 2 plus 4,000X minus 1,000 is equal to 0. Are you able to recall something? Are you able to recall what kind of equation this is?
This equation will have two values, one positive and one negative.
This is what we call a quadratic equation.
Quadratic, yeah.
Ax square plus bx plus c is equal to 0.
Hmm.
Now, in this particular condition, the x will have two values. So if you try to solve it manually, you are going to get two values. So you are going to create unnecessary confusion actually. So in case you have to choose and your required rate of is 10%, then solve the whole thing by 10%, you get the number either positive or negative, and then decide what you are going to do. Now we come back to, I hope that is okay, na? So the why the IR may create a problem with the abnormal kind of a cash flow. So remember sometime what happens when as a company you invest in phases. So you have the whole project which is coming up in phases. So you got a one phase you start, and then you try to make investment in the phase 2. Then the phase 2 comes up, then goes for the phase 3, and then perhaps after certain phases the whole project actually is ready. But you are having a part of the projects is getting ready after some of the period every time. Now the problem is in these kind of conditions, you may be getting a negative cash flows after some of the years because you are making another round of investment. So the net cash flow for the year now again becomes negative. So if you are getting such kind of a conditions, then in that case, the IRR perhaps theoretically not going to work on paper. So you have to decide, or you have to evaluate the whole project again with the help of the NPV itself. So you decide what is your required rate of return and evaluate the project. That's it. Okay, so another issue actually which you should be very, very careful. I think I'm unsharing again and again, but let's say I go back to the Excel again. I go to this particular sheet. Now, what is the problem with this? So you are going to select project A. Why? Because your cost of capital is 10%. And this project is giving us a benefit, and someone in finance department told you that this project is giving you 23% IRR. So you are quite happy. I'm getting a 23% return per annum for the next 5 years. Now, will you? Now consider a case. A company issues a bond, and the company issues bond say for 10 years, and the rate of interest is 12%. You invest. Why you invest? Because you say that the bank is going to give us a return hardly 6.5 to 7%. So this company is giving me a return for next 10%, next 10 years at a rate of 12%. So you make invest. So you purchase only one bond of 100 rupees, and every year you're getting 12 rupees back. Now, so you at T0 right now you give the payment to the company 100 rupees. From T1 to T12 or T1 to T10, every year for the next 10 years, you're getting 12 rupees back. And in the 12th year, you also get your original money back. So everything is done, sorted out, beautifully done. You got your money back along with the interest. Now, if I ask you what is the rate of return you have received? What is the return you got on this 12% bond where you invested in? Did you get a 12% return per annum for the 10 years? The answer is no. You never got that, because what you did with the 12 rupees you received. Now, if you spend the money because you received 12 rupees, then reality, the realized return, or the return you actually got, is less than 12%. Why? Because the 12% returns depends on the compounding. And the compounding return means the whole amount remain invested for the term of the project. So every 12 rupees you are receiving must be reinvested for the remaining life of the project. Now consider this. When you are saying 23% return, that means all the cash flows you are receiving during the years must be reinvested at 23% for the remaining life of the projects. Are you going to do this? No. Or are you going to get the investment avenue which gives you 23% return? The chances are no. Not every year you are going to find such an investment opportunity. So what you get? Remember, your cost of capital is 10%. Now, why your cost of capital is 10%? Perhaps in case you are in business. Say my cost of funding is 10% and I'm running a business. Why? Because my business is giving you a return which is more than 10%. No? Or at least 10% or more. And that's why you are raising the fund at a rate of 10%. Now, why I will take a rate of why I will take a loan at a 10%? Why? Because I can invest it somewhere and get a more than 10% return. No? So a business takes a loan because the business generates more return and the rate of interest the business pays on the loan is less. So if my cost of capital is 10%, that means my business is giving a return which is more than either 10% or more. So I unsure this and we consider a situation. We consider a situation where we say, okay, we are going to invest this money somewhere else. Remember, I'm taking the project number 2 from your example. So I'm getting the cash flows every year. The only problem is I cannot reinvest that cash flows at a rate of a 19%. But where I can invest, I can only invest that cash flows back in my business. Now, what is my business is generating? A minimum 10% return my business is generating. So if my reinvestment rate is 10%, and this is what I'm going to reinvest for the remaining life of the project. What is the return I'm getting? Remember, we take 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year, 5 year. We take 5,000. This is what we are getting actually: 15,000, 20,000, 30,000, and okay, so 20,000. So that means all the immediate cash flows which we are receiving will be reinvested for the remaining life of the project. So the 4th year cash you are getting, 30,000, will be reinvested at a rate of a 10% for the remaining 1 year. So technically, you are getting only 1 year interest. So if you are getting only 1 year interest at a rate of a 10%, what should be the future value? 30,000 invested at a rate of a 10% for 1 year. What should be the future value?
33, sir.
33. Now this 20,000 is reinvested for 2 years. That means what we are saying, 20,000, 1.1 raised to the power 2. So the amount will be 24,200. So this goes for 3 years. So 15,000, 1.1 raised to the power 3. So the amount will be 19,965, and this will be for the remaining 4 years. So it will be 7,320. So the total amount actually, it should become 1,04,485 rupees. So how much you got? Remember, the cost was 50,000. If 50,000 is converted in 1,04,485. So if I try to find out what is the exact return I am getting, actually, it should be equal to this. So don't worry about if you are coming from a bit non-mathematical background and you are seeing this, because I'll give you a better option in any case. But that is the building blocks. So just see this. It will be, should be equal to 0.15882 or 15.88%. That is the return in reality you received. Okay, that is the return in reality you received.
So we compare this 15 with the 19%.
Yeah, you will
right,
never
sir?
get 19%. Why you won't get 19%?
No, no.
Because you will never receive 19% for each of the year, na, reinvestment opportunity.
Okay.
So if you get 19% reinvestment opportunity, you will get exact 19%.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, the question is, we are not going to do it manually, actually, in reality. But we are going to do it again. We are going to do it Excel. Now this concept, what you have just seen, is called modified IRR. Modified IRR. So in reality, we encounter modified IRR rather than IRR. Because maintaining the IRR in a real life is basically not possible. Okay, so let's see. Instead of doing all these exercises what we did on a paper, can we ask Excel to do this? Excel will say quite easy. Excel say I got a formula MIRR actually. Modified internal rate of return. So what does it say? It says give us the value, select the cost, select the all the future cash flows, comma, and write the reinvestment rate. What is the reinvestment rate? And write it twice actually. 0.1, comma, 0.1. So this is what we are doing. So one is gas, other is the reinvestment rate, the 0.1, 0.1, and simply press OK. See what you get. Copy this. We just verify our solution. We got 15.88.
Sir, can you briefly explain again what we are exactly doing in this modified?
We are saying modified IRR because we cannot reinvest at the IRR rate. Because IRR rate is quite high. So in reality, you won't get investment opportunities every year at such a higher rate. Means you may be lucky once, you cannot be lucky every year, na? Yeah. What is your question?
So that in whiteboard, what you just explained, can you explain that again?
So what we said, if we cannot reinvest at the IRR rate, what is the reasonable reinvestment rate? Reasonable, I'm saying. Because otherwise your total return will be very, very less. Because if the money, whatever the money you are not reinvesting, you just spend the money, your realized return will be very, very less. But if you reinvest for the remaining life of the project at a reasonable rate, what is a reasonable rate? You say, I will reinvest in my business. So what is the return the business will generate? At least this. Because this is your cost of capital. So if the business is going to generate at least this, so that means my reinvestment rate is 10% or 0.1. Na? So this is what we mentioned. So we have mentioned the 0.1 twice because that is the requirement basically comes in, but this is what you can do. And I'm going to reinvest this at 0.1. Now the Excel will tell you what should be your realized return in case you reinvest these cash flows at 10% rather than 23%. So your net return or the realized return comes down from 23 to 16.3. But this is what in reality you will receive. 23% is on paper. So the 19% you are getting on paper. If your reinvestment rate is not 19%, if your reinvestment rate is only 10%, the realized return will be 15.88%.
So this would be actual return, sir?
That is the actual return you are going to receive. That is the actual return you are going to receive. So when you make any investment, even at the personal level, and you are getting the cash flows year after year, are you reinvesting those cash flows or no? Now you know how to calculate the actual return I am getting. So you'd say what you are going to do with the cash flows you are receiving in between. If you are reinvesting, that is the rate you should use for the reinvestment. If you are not reinvesting, then it is zero. So then calculate the IRR accordingly, what you are basically going to get. But the whole NPV and IRR work on one assumption. Both work on one assumption that all the intermediate cash flows are reinvested at the same rate for the remaining life of the project. That is the assumption, because both are working on what? Compounding interest from technique. So the compounding interest means you are getting interest on interest, na? So the money has to be invested, remain invested, should not be withdrawn. So if you are getting something, reinvest again.
So now you will be selecting 16.30, the project with 16.30, right, sir?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Okay, so before we wrap up, just one more technique I'm mentioning. Why one more technique? Because I think that we are going to take one example in the next session, and that technique, at least in the question they are asking you. So let me tell you that this is called profitability index, PI, or sometime it is also called benefit cost ratio. This is basically nothing, is basically equal to gross present value divided by cost. Simple. This is what we are looking at. So what is the gross present value divided by cost? Remember, the gross present value before calculating the NPV for project A was 16,055. Remember? So if I say 66,055 divided by the cost, that is profitability index or the benefit cost ratio. NPV, we deduct the cost from the gross present value. In PI, we simply divide gross present value with cost. So if I do this for this project gave a gross present value of 64,877 divided by the cost. That is a ratio. So it is a ratio between the benefit and the cost, nothing else. I hope you are getting the same number, na? Are you getting the same number? Anyone? Very well. Okay, very well. So in case you are getting now remember, there is only one issue with this. If we use this, we are not getting any idea of the magnitude of the cash flows. You may say, okay, NPV or PI, but normally we again take NPV because NPV at least tells you us the rate of that, at what rate, what is the minimum rate of return we are getting, 10% in our case. We are also getting the amount. Now this only tells you a ratio. Now this technique may be helpful in certain condition actually. Say in case of a capital rationing. In case of a capital rationing, this technique may be helpful. That we have to select most profitable projects which has give more benefit vis-a-vis the cost. Because when you have multiple projects, the projects may have a different cost, project may have a different benefits. So you may perhaps apply profitability index in case of a capital rationing, but otherwise we stick normally to NPV only. So stay here only. But there is one technique I thought which is there, then you should of course get this. Okay, any question you
So
got?
how did you calculate GPV in this case? In this equation, GPV by cost?
GPV. GPV, I calculate GPV is basically, let me say, GPV is nothing but your NPV formula. So when you say NPV and you say 10% is the cost and sure this is the future benefits. Remember I told you earlier also the NPV formula in Excel gives you gross present value. It's now basically, let me format the cell. Let me have the number. Okay, see this 66,055 minus 50,000 is equal to this, na? Remember this formula? We deduct the cost. So if we don't deduct the cost, we are getting a GPV only.
Yes, sir. Yes, got it.
Okay, very well. Let's look at the last sheet now. I tell you what is there for you. Is one example will tell you the difference of which is the comparison between or how you should look at NPV and IRR. What happens actually? So this is simple question already solved. You need not to do anything. Already solved. So these are the cash flows we are getting. The cost of capital discount rate is 15%. So this is the gross present value. This is the NPV. This is the IRR. Now what happens? We are going to select this proposal because the cost of capital is a 15% and the IRR is more than that. So we are going to select this. Now what happens if you change the discount rate? the same project will give you a different kind of NPV. Remember, if your expectation is lower, project is profitable, you keep on increasing your expectation, the project basically profitability will start coming down, and ultimately the project will start generating losses. And because remember, the project IRR is at 19.71%. So at 19.71% exact, the NPV will be zero. So if you go to 20%, project has started making the losses. So this is what is happening, and this, see what we have done with the whole thing. So this is your diagram of this. This is how the NPV is coming down with the change in the discount. And where it is somewhere 19.7%, or if you round off somewhere 20%, that benefits are equal to the cost. And remember the downfall, how it's downfalling, the steep fall initially, then it goes like this. It is never linear. So this slight convex shape you got. So be careful of that. So I hope you got the idea, you got the concept, and you have clarity. In case something is still not clear, please come back. There is one request actually I have to make. I think I made last year also. So we are not aware of who is this user. So if you can identify yourself, sir. So we know actually from which account you are coming in, so we can mark you present, because we are not able to get your attendance in any case. I hope you are attending. You are marking your presence with the help of the sheets we are circulating again and again. That attendance sheet will be coming again and again, so don't worry about that. In case you miss, there will be another which will be coming up. So I think we are hopefully able to circulate 5 to 6 times. So if you are there, any one of these, we are marking you. Okay, so otherwise, we also got your Zoom record, provided you are joining it with proper username. So that is the limitation we got. Okay, so what we are going to do after lunch, you are going to work on 2 small problems. You are going to calculate the cash flow step by step from the problem which is mentioned to you. Now, once you do that, we will quickly solve that whole problem in Excel. So you may follow me, or later on we will upload the solution also. Don't worry about it. And we will address one major issue. What about all this business of riskiness? Because whatever the cash flows you are having, they are in future. We don't know the future. That is the reality. So how to handle the whole riskiness in any investment opportunity you are receiving? So I hope that's okay. Then we meet after, say at 2:45.
Sure, sir.
Thank you very much.